and welcome to the Secrets of Organ Playing podcast. I'm your host, Vidas Pinkevičius. Today's guest is Robin Gullbrandsson from Sweden, who knows a whole lot about preserving heritage, old churches and organs. He was born in 1980 and grew up on the countryside in western Sweden. Currently, Robin is a heritage officer at Västergötland Museum in Skara from this winter, and prior to that, from 2006 till 2016, he worked at Jönköping County Museum. His main field of expertise is controller and heritage expert in restoration works concerning churches, but also from time to time he deals with exhibitions and book projects. Robin graduated from Gothenburg University in 2003 with a master in archaeology, combined with art history and heritage studies, and he had special interest in building archaeology. Robin is also a passionate black and white photographer and has traveled a lot through Transilvania. His interest with historical organs became more and more vivid after he started working in the heritage care with inventorisation of churches around 2004-2005. I met Robin at the Church of the Holy Ghost in Vilnius. He was visiting Vilnius for the conference of archaeology, and he wanted to visit the old Adam Gottlob Gasparini organ there from 1776. So in this conversation, Robin talks about his experience with preserving heritage wooden medieval churches and old organs. Let's go to the show. So Robin, I am so happy that we're finally having this conversation. You contacted me a few weeks ago. You wanted to visit the famous Gasparini organ in town.
Yes.
And we went. You remember how we were lucky, and local organist Romuald showed us the basement of that church,
yes,
where mummies were present. What was your impression of that trip?
Oh, well, it was very nice. You really got the complete view of the whole church from the top, from the organ, the top of the organ, down to the basement and the world of the dead ones.
Right. You made a few photos, right, of the mummies and the basement.
Well, I think I got one or two good ones. Yes.
When I showed the photo of the mummy from the 18th century, or it was a 19th century mummy, maybe to my student in the school that I teach, she was terrified, Was it scary for you?
No, I have seen them before in my work.
And so, can you tell our listeners what it is that you do?
Well, actually, I'm into the heritage care in Sweden. So I work in one of the regional museums in West Sweden. That's Västergötland Museum in the town of Skara, old cathedral town, very small but very nice. And normally my normal work is being a controller or supervisor in restorations, mainly church buildings. And the kind of works it's quite a wide range of works you have to supervise and also know quite a lot about. So it ranged from facade restorations to how to make good electrical installations in a historical building, and of course from time to time also organs, which I find very interesting and stimulating.
What kind of education does this kind of work require?
Well, you should have quite a broad one in a way, and nowadays we have actually in Gothenburg, quite a program for heritage care, but actually I have my background in archaeology, and so my main subject was archaeology in the university several years ago, and then I studied art history, also a bit of heritage care history, and some language studies as well. So it was quite a mixture, in a way like how it used to be in Sweden before. The old museum people actually had a quite broad background with different subjects, themes, so to say, and they like to work quite broad as well. Some of the old antiquarians, in the 50s, 60s, they could be archaeologists, architects, and sometimes they were also musicians.
Right.
So, like a bit of a Renaissance ideal, but of course they were better at some things than at others, like every man.
So you do go to a lot of historical buildings, right? Historical churches.
Yes.
Do you remember, Robin, what was the first church that you entered as an either art historian or archaeologist to research?
I think one of the first ones. It must have been. I made some studies on summer in Gotland, so of course there are lots of churches from medieval times. But as a professional, it was quite normal 19th century church. Some small remains of medieval times, but in a way quite ordinary for Swedish countryside church. So, but quite a lot of old inventories, and of course, always the organ. I don't think it was very special, but anyhow. So, but after that, of course, I've visited hundreds of churches, and in Sweden and other countries, and you in a way you get a feeling for them. And
so I imagine you go to the old church like the one we went to see the Gasparini organ.
Yes.
You start to feel some sort of at home, right? You feel the smell of the building, right? The old sometimes wood or the bricks, right?
Yes.
And or stone.
Yes.
And sometimes you even can remember that feeling, that
the
image
smell.
later in your life, right?
Yes, you have quite a. It's a bit neglected, the memory of the senses in a way, because one of the strongest memories you could have from a place could be actually the smell, the combination of smells from an old stone building, the old wood, and things like that. So it's of course that's apart from the quite scientific regard of things, but still the historical buildings are in a way speaks to our senses not only as historical documents, so they are an experience. And
so, Robin, you work a lot with antiquities, right?
Yes.
Antiquities and historical material. Who inspired you to take up this kind of career? Not to look to the future, but to look to the past, right?
Well, I like to see it like that to be able to look to the future, you should know the past and actually bring a bit of it with you into the future.
I was waiting for this answer. Good.
Yes, but back to the question. In a way, since I was quite small, I was quite fascinated by the old buildings, and where I was brought up, we had some old castles. You could go there each summer and look at it and feel the atmosphere. I was always the one who insisted upon going there. And of course, you had when the school finished for the term, before Christmas and before summer, we always went to the small village church from the medieval times. And for a small kid, I must have been then some 6 years old. Quite lasting impressions.
Right.
A mixture of impressions, and of course, the organ was one part of that too. First encounter, like for many people, but for me, I think the whole atmosphere had quite a big importance. And of course, later I had the luck to have some of the really old, old-fashioned, but the classical kind of school teachers, the old generations, and they were really good and knew very much, and actually they also stimulated my interest, and they helped as good as I could to stimulate it, and well, I think it played quite a big part in paving the way for where I was heading. But well, you never know.
And you do play the organ, though, right? I've seen you play some hymns, very nice hymns that everybody knows. And where did that come from in your life?
It's very late, actually. I'm still very much in the beginning of learning to play the organ. So actually the interest for the organ is much older than myself at all being able to play on it. So, but well, I always was interested in the classical music, and well, as I saw, maybe the organ was the first encounter with classical music or the classical repertoire in the churches. And as a teenager, well, I wasn't maybe like all the other ones. I preferred to listen to Wagner, not hard metal, and Beethoven and Russian composers. So, and more I got acquainted also with the organ, but mainly actually during my university time, because I have quite a lot of organist friends that I got to know in those days. And so you could spend quite an evening in a completely dark church just playing, having fun with the organ.
Isn't that beautiful? When nobody really disturbs you, right?
Yes.
You shut off from the world, right? And you can play for hours the same hymn without end, right?
Yes.
I remember one of the first experience with a larger instrument was I was visiting my grandparents in the northern part of Lithuania, and they had a church with Latvian built organ, a romantic style but pneumatic action. In 19th century, end of 19th century, and luckily enough the priest let me play this organ.
Wise
and
priest.
I was sort of fascinated with the echo, with the sound. Just like you, I played harmonizations, and it felt like a meditation to me, don't you think?
Yes, and in a way, it's you really, the room belongs to you when you sit by the organ in a quite fascinating way, which intrigues me very much because, well, you have a whole, orchestra for yourself. So that was very, very interesting. And, well, later I also made quite a lot of journeys in Eastern Europe, especially in Transilvania, Siebenbürgen, today Romania. And actually, maybe by hazard, I got to travel around with some organ builders, organ students from Hungary who were working with historic organs, interested in historical organs, and we traveled around. And then I actually got up my eyes for the organ as a historical construction, and historical construction still functioning, working. Well, one of these organs weren't working because of neglect, and so on. But so I think that was what actually got me into having an interest for the organ as a piece of heritage, piece of built heritage, and piece of also sounding heritage, of course. But my main entrance into it, of course, in a way, it's the organ as a historical construction, and the most intricate construction you could imagine from the past centuries. So that was quite rewarding, and bit by bit I got more and more interesting. Of course, I was around lots in church, so I could have opportunity alone to just sneak up to the organ and try it. And after a while, some years ago, I decided, I should do something more with this. So I was a controller in Jönköping, where they was building a new organ for the choir in the Church of Christina, and they wanted a Bach organ in the traditions of Silbermann. So they hired the Wegscheider company from Dresden, and so I was a controller, and we had quite a nice nice discussions and good discussions. How about, well, of course, there is always problems to solve, especially placing a big organ in a historical church and to make it good and look good as well. So it became quite nice, and actually then I asked if it was possible to have a practicum or something, because they are very famous for their historical restoration works. And, well, I got the opportunity, so I spent 3 months there, 2013, so that was a good time to learn, not just restoration, but traditional organ building.
You mentioned, Robin, that what got you interest into closer acquaintance with the organ, it's construction, it's mechanical engineering, right?
Yes, in a way.
Part. It's a new angle for me, because when I talk to people in one way or another related to the organ world, sometimes what fascinates them about the organ is, I don't know, mystery, right?
Sometimes, yes, how does it work?
Sometimes the magnificence in a cathedral building like that, they hear the sounds that they never forget, right, for the first time. But with your case, it's construction, it's technical engineering, right?
Yeah, in a way, it's an intricate. Well, it's because formerly, mainly my kind of people working with heritage care, they usually don't know that much what is inside the organ. The heritage knowledge, it ends and starts with the facade. And, well, in a 19th century organ, the facade has almost nothing to do with what's behind. And, well, in order to judge a restoration program or for the authorities and so, well, you must have, and being able at all to be part of as a controller for the heritage side in an organ project, well, you must know how do you estimate the values of what's inside the organ. And, of course, that's not only the pipework, it's also the construction, how the mechanics, the wind chests, and all these things, but which for many heritage people in the heritage care is quite still a mysterious world. In a way, there are only 2-3 people who actually work with the broader sense of heritage care that actually also are working and with organ heritage.
When you go to a place like this, either to St. John's Church here in Vilnius or to the Holy Ghost Church where the Gasparini organ stands, do you look at the place through the eyes of the art historian, archaeologist, or any kind of heritage person, right? Or you just forget your education and training and you look with amazement, the Baroque ornaments and wall paintings and that.
Yes, in a way, in Vilnius in special, these Baroque churches actually they tend you to look at them more from this emotional horizon, because, well, the impression is overwhelming. You will have actually to sit down for a while and look and start to analyze the interior. But, well, that you can't do from the start, because the immediate impression is what was meant with the Baroque, overwhelming and for the senses. Not for the mind.
Isn't that similar when you watch a good movie, right? You forget what you're seeing, right, for the first time.
Yes, when you look at it again,
then you can analyze.
You see how they have put the scenes together, the angles of the camera, and how they manipulate, and how they use the music.
Right.
Well, I'm a cineast as well, so I tend to look at movies in that way.
Right.
When I've seen them twice or something, you can break it down into the
same is with organ music, right? When you first hear the composition of famous or not so famous composer that you like and enjoy for the first time, you sort of completely are immersed in the experience, but only later you can recollect what happened, or when you hear it second or the third time, then you can analyze and look at through another, put analytical editor's hat, basically.
Yes. How is it orchestrated? How is the structure? And it's in a way it's quite similar.
So that's what we organists sometimes try to do. We try to move people with our playing so that they would forget what they are hearing. In a good recital or concert or even a church service, people would come back to us and say, you moved me. I forgot that I'm in this place. I thought I was transferred to a fantasy world, I closed my eyes and I meditated. These experiences show that the recital was sort of successful in a way that a person was transfixed with your art. But sometimes in not so good playing, you could hear right away what's happening. What kind of registration is used, what kind of articulation is not used, or good articulation. So you could analyze right away if it's not well executed, well enough at the artistic level.
Yes.
But I suspect people listening to us have the same experiences also when they forget, first of all, what kind of art is happening to them. So, Robin, in Vilnius, you not only came to see the organs, right? You participated in the archaeological conference, right?
Yes.
I've seen this annual meeting of European Archaeological Society, right?
Yes, exactly.
So can you tell us a little bit what you did and what you presented about?
Actually, it's also quite connected to churches, but a bit older than the Casperini organ, because I made the last 2 years I was working with a kind of inventory for what is preserved of early medieval wooden constructions, in effect roof constructions in the medieval churches of West Sweden. And in a way, there are quite a lot of them. And these are constructions built in the 12th century, still working.
In wood, from wood, right?
In wood, yes.
That's amazing, right?
And just like a Casperini organ from the 18th century, also almost completely wood, and still in function.
I've heard a lot about Norwegian wood building, right?
Yeah, the stave churches are very famous, and they are from the same time, and there are 20 of them or something. And but here we have maybe some hundreds of preserved roof constructions, very nicely timbered from 12th century and 13th century, still working. And originally these roof trusses from wood, they were visible from the room, from the church, from below. So they were part of the aesthetical experience of the early Romanesque church in those days. And of course it must have had an impression, have importance for the acoustics as well, in a way. Maybe the acoustics were very bad, because later in the medieval time they made vaults. So these roof constructions are very nicely made because they were meant to be visible. So it's nothing hasty about them. They are very exactly cut, and the surfaces are very nice done. Sometimes you have decorations. Sometimes you have a place to hang up this small bell for marking the different stages of the service. And in a way, it's a kind of carpentry that actually must have already been in Sweden when Christianity came there.
From the Vikings time, right?
More or less. It's a bit disputed, but this is how it's cut with the axe. It's quite typical, because you get a quite typical surface. We could look at it with a flashlight from the side, and you see this pattern that you only see from this time, because later it disappeared, and you only see it in Norway and Sweden. So probably the Viking Age carpenters lived on and met the stonemasons from Europe.
And then, of course, they built boats. in a similar
they
way
knew
too.
how to build from wood.
With all those materials, and they bend the wood, right?
Yes.
And at the same time, they would bend the materials for ceilings as well.
Yes, of
they
course.
knew how to do that technologically. So amazing. And I'm interested also to know whether woodworm likes to eat that kind of wood or not today.
Yes, it's a problem in Sweden as well. Maybe it's more a problem here in Europe, more southern parts of Europe. But it's getting warmer in Sweden as well, and may have also made lots of insulation work sometimes in the churches, and that has changed the climate in the attics then, and sometimes that's not so good if it's not too ventilated. So if it's
becomes humid, right?
Yeah, if it's too humid in parts of the year, then it's a good place for the worms to eat. Just like in sculptures in a church room, or
organs
for that example too. So it's all connected in a way, because it's historical materials in historical buildings, and they are always the object of threats from climate and people, of course, and animals.
And woodworm doesn't choose, should I have for breakfast an organ or a ceiling or a sculpture, right?
We don't know. We have gourmets.
Right.
It should be at least some 100 years old. Yes, and I've seen quite examples from in Transilvania as well, where you not only have the woodworm, but you also must have had a kind of animal living inside the organ.
Yeah, bats, right?
Yes, bats or
especially
some kind
in Transilvania, right?
we have them in attics in Sweden as well. But rats or any big rodents or something eating away inside the organ. So you could see these examples of complete devastation in an 18th century organ or 19th century organ of the church as a whole, for that example.
When the windows in this church were not hermetically sealed some 10 years ago, there were some pigeons nesting on the pillars. Yes, and during the organ concerts, they not particularly liked the music, and they started to I don't know, to scream and how to say this, to make some noises and sounds, and in one case, procession with rector of the university came. And this pigeon, I think, pooped on the rector's robe. Yes. So then they decided to change the windows and make it hermetic. So yes, we had all kinds of experiences with animals. For example, in one summer, I noticed inside of the organ a swallow. Swallow.
Oh yes.
A small bird, right?
They're very fast.
Very fast, but which cannot really fly.
They just have to jump from.
They have to jump,
point.
And it was somehow sort of nested on the ground of the organ. So what I did, I picked it up. With my hands from the organ, brought back to the courtyard of university. And I sort of get a jump start for it, and it flew away and said thank you.
Yes.
So yes, that was very nice. So Robin, of course, your archaeological and art historian work with wooden churches, wooden ceilings is sort of very curious for non-art historians, right? We don't notice these things, but when you go to the wooden church like this, you have to notice these things, right?
Yes, and the most interesting parts of the churches, as for most historical buildings, are the parts that you don't see immediately, the hidden away parts, the attics, the catacombs, the inside of the organ, these places where you, as a normal visitor, you don't get to see them, but there you can actually often quite more easily, if you have a trained eye, read the history of a building and how it was used. And sometimes, well, in the attic you put all kinds of stuff that you don't need anymore, but you don't want to throw them away or burn them. So, you find lots of old things in the attics from several hundreds of years.
Like the organ, too?
Yes, you find organs as well, organ pipes, and, sometimes whole organs lying around in parts. We actually noticed in a Småland church, a quite nice, one of a few preserved Vistenius organs actually only stuffed away in a magazine part of a tower, just very tight.
Jonas Vistenius is connected with Lithuania too, through the Königsberg Organ School. He was, I think, trained in Königsberg under one of the masters there.
I think it was the old Kasparini. It must have
could have been the father or grandfather, maybe the father, or Adam Horatius.
Yes.
And then he came to Sweden to work. But Kasparini, Adam Gottlob Kasparini, came to Lithuania and East Prussia and Polish region to work also. They both were influenced by the same school. So when you talk about Vistenius, I remember Kasparini, and yes, they have some similar features.
Yes.
So, Robin, what is next on your agenda in your research? What are you planning to do when you get home?
Oh, actually, on Tuesday, it's the final meeting for actually an organ restoration. Well, now it's finished, so we will have to just take a final look at everything. And it's the Sjölin organ of Svenorum Church, south of Jönköping, that has been restored during the last year. So it will be inaugurated in less than a month now. So one of maybe the last Sjölin organs to be resurrected in a way. It's been silent for almost more than 50 years almost.
Per Sjölin, right?
Yes, the famous Jönköping organ builder, turn of around 1800, early 19th century.
So it's late Baroque, right? Late Baroque classical.
Yes, you could say it is. It's quite in that classical period.
Are there many composers from that period who lived in Sweden who composed on those instruments? Do you know?
Well, we didn't have that huge amount of composers. We had those connected to the court, of course. The famous Krauss and some others, the end of the 18th century. Otherwise, I'm not sure, but of course the organists in the cathedrals and the bigger churches, I guess they also composed something, but I don't know.
Right, but of course the organist who will be performing on this instrument for the inauguration should probably be aware of something from that time, especially in Sweden.
Yes, of course.
Because it's not probably a good idea to play Bach on that instrument.
No.
Only Bach, right?
No.
You could play Bach, but if you find some original sources from that time, from that area, that would connect the typical instrument with the time and the occasion very nicely. And I think the archives, right, might reveal some information. So, interesting, Robin, when you get back, of course you will see lots of not only wooden churches, your usual, but also organs. So when you go back in your memory, some many years ago, when you first started being interested in historical materials, you're so advanced now, right? Do you know what is the number one thing you wish you knew back then that would have made your life easier?
Oh, hard question. Lots of things, probably.
Just maybe the most significant, because this will become very nice advice for people who are listening to us right now.
Yes.
How to, for example, how to look at the historical material. If organists, for example, go to an old church with an old organ, right? How they should look at the material, what should they discover, what should they notice, right? Or to the building, because you have trained eyes, right?
Yes.
But not always. In the beginning, you didn't have those eyes.
No.
But now you do.
Yes.
So, what did you discover during that time that might have changed your life?
Yes. Well, I think to see and get acquainted with the most possible material in a way. It's a very good school. You could read very much, but it's always better to see with your own eyes and experience with your own senses. And well, that was my best school in a way after the university, when I had my first job making inventories. It's now 11 years ago or something, 12 years ago. That was the real good school. Well, you had some equipment with you from the university for your mind, but there's analytical thinking and so on. But when you to try it in the field,
hands-on experience, right?
Yes. I think that's the most important. Of course, you should read and study and continue read and study. But well, you not only in an academical sense, but really out in the field, and that's what's nice with my work as well, because this time of the year I'm normally not that much in my office. I'm mainly out with the buildings and with the people maintaining them. So that's the best school. And well, you could always think, oh, why didn't I study that thing in those days? And why didn't I start playing organ when I still was a child? Would have made things easier. But well, you can't change what you didn't do. But well, you should always take the opportunity when it's given to you, if you have the least interest in it. Because well, an opportunity, it's not certain that it comes back. So you have to grab the moment when it comes to you and make the best of it in a way.
So very good advice, really, to get hands-on experience. You go to the field, right? Go to an old organ, right?
Yes,
for example,
and
listen and see and touch and smell and try to be curious, right? About how it works.
Curiosity is the main thing. Like when we went down to the catacombs up the ladders. Well, you should challenge yourself, because the curiosity should always be the most powerful.
And it was a little bit of scary experience to go, and you don't know what you will find.
No, but that's the thrilling thing about it.
Adventure, right?
Yes, in a way, it's.
Who's lurking behind the corner?
You don't have to climb a mountain for the adventure. But well, it's the natural curiosity, and as long as you had that, I think you will always get a bit forward all the time. But when you don't have the curiosity anymore, it's when you maybe should stop.
Then you just sit in front of TV, right?
Yes,
all day long.
Well, I don't do that anymore.
Right. So as long as you have curiosity, you are moving forward, right? You're learning new things every day. Yes. So I hope you learned at least one new thing in Lithuania when you visited us, right?
Yes.
What was number one thing you learned in Lithuania that you remember or you will remember the most?
Number one thing. Well, Lithuania has quite a lot of nice possibilities and astonishing cultural heritage. So
true.
My main impression from Vilnius is the Baroque, actually. So sometimes it's from my sense, a bit too heavily restored or renovated. Sometimes it's not renovated at all. And, it's always a way to how to proceed. We have all different regards on heritage care, of course. One regard in Sweden, others in Lithuania. But, like with organs, just don't stop with the facade. Get to know the inside. I think that's important. And I hope it will go on in that direction.
Right.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your time and your insights, Robin. I think people around the world will remember how important curiosity is. To stay curious, to learn new things, right? How things work, not only in technological organ world, right? Mechanics and the construction, but look around, right?
Yes.
What kind of building it is in, right?
What do I see around me, actually?
Right.
Where am I?
Right. That's also says a lot of the instrument itself, and sometimes it helps your playing too.
Yes, getting to know the instrument. Just getting to know the country where you are, or the city, or the building, or the organ by which you're sitting, which, of course, every place, every organ has its character, its possibilities, its weaknesses, and, adapt to that and make something really good out of it. It's something universal, I think.
Thank you so much, and good luck in your cultural adventures.
Yes, thank you very much, Vidas.
If you would like to know more about Robin's work, please visit his homepage at gullbrandssonsphoto.wordpress.com. That is gullbrandssonsphoto.wordpress.com. And his other page involves his research in academia, so that's jkpglm.academia, so that's academia.edu /Robin Gullbrandsson, ROBINGullbrandsson. If you liked this conversation, I encourage you to visit my blog Secrets of Organ Playing at organduo.lt, where you will find lots of insights, practical advice, and training for every area of organ playing. You can subscribe to this blog for free to get your daily dose of inspiration and to be the first to know when any of my future podcasts roll out. I hope to help you reach your dreams in organ playing. I'm Vidas Pinkevičius. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you online really soon.